I'm Thorin, also known as the Esports Historian, and I am here exclusively for Esportsbet, the industry's leading crypto odds matrix, to analyse the outright odds for the winner of Blast World Finals. Now, Blast World Finals is going to be the last big Counter-Strike tournament of 2023, the last CS2 big LAN of 2023, and it's going to be the best CS2 LAN, because if you look at the rosters, finally a bunch of teams, nearly all the teams there are competitive enough and made enough moves that they have a chance to win. So even more perfect for an outright odds video. Now, if you've never put crypto onto Esportsbet, you can get their classic first time deposit bonus. What is it? You know, if you've been listening to the videos, it's 50% match up to 100 USDT. So you can get more for your crypto at Esportsbet. Now, to find the outright odds section, you don't just go as normal. You go through here, yes, you pick your currency, you wait for it to load up. But whereas the games are all going to be listed here, you're not going to just go to CSGO and CS2. That's where the individual games are listed. Now, yes, you can bet on the first round matchups. After that, you'll be able to bet on all the other matches, the final, others, see the odds, do the handicaps, do the parlays, all those great features that they have. But this video is about doing the outright odds. So what we're going to do is you're going to go past CSGO, you're going to go all the way down to the bottom. There you go. Then when you're there, you're going to see these tournaments. And now obviously you're going to pick MR12, which is the new rule set, Blast Premier World Final 2023 champion. You can see on the right how many days until the market closes. You click on that. Once you're there, you have, these are the teams, all the teams that are competing, all 8 teams. And basically, each of them have separate odds, and this is only to win the tournament. So we don't care if you're a good team, you'll make the semis, if you're capable of making the final. We only care if we stop, we think of the players, we think of the team, we think of the opponents. Is there a world this team could win? And then, if they can win, what are the odds like relative to what I think they should be, not what they've been bet to or set to initially on the website? So we're going to start at the top, as I always do. Team Vitality won the last tournament, Blast Fall Finals, at least the last big tier 1 tournament. So understandably, with their new lineup, they are the favourite. Some would say z1 was the best player in the world. He's right back on top form. He won the MVP. So the idea of 2.631, actually, those are pretty good odds for a team that a lot of people would say they're the obvious team to pick right now. They've got arguably the best player in the world. He can AWP, he can rifle. He is a fabulous player all around. It's a different squad than the old Vitality. Remember, they're now working with Flames came in, so you've got Spinks and Flame, the Israelis. Then you've got z1 and Apex, the French. But then you've got Mezzi, the UK player, who came in most recently. He didn't even look that great in the win, but suppose he added to the atmosphere. But crucially, Zonic isn't there anymore, who won the major with them. Xtaz is the coach. Now, he was apparently working with them during the major. So this is a very different sort of a Vitality. It's not really like the one that won the major. It's definitely like the one before they had Spinks, where it was the Danes and the mix of the French players. And it's nothing like the old teams that were just z1 and the French teams had to hard frag, and then some like good veterans did what they could around you. This is quite a skilled team, quite a sort of mixed bag of players, and there's a bunch of players that still don't have that much experience. Flames and Mezzi haven't been in that many big finals, haven't been that deep in too many tournaments overall. Some of them obviously, I mean, they've all won a tournament now, but some of them have a lot of success, some of them have middling success, and some of them not so much. So I actually think people still are a little bit in and out on them. Like, will they be dominant? Will they win? So I actually think you're getting pretty good odds here, bearing in mind they probably have the best player on their team, because 2.631 to win, that's pretty nice. I would have expected to be more like 2. I would think everyone would just put all the money in here and go, wow, z1's back, they're going to win. So I think if you really like Vitality win, I don't hate this as one. Then you have FaZe Clan. Now what's great is, even though FaZe Clan won all the tournaments they played in, 2 LANs and an online cup, they were in the final of the last tournament, Blast Fall. So in theory, they're an awesome team, right? They almost never lose. But this isn't the same FaZe Clan, because Twists has now left for Team Liquid. He's been officially announced in Team Liquid. They're not at this tournament, by the way. Instead, FaZe Clan has already signed their replacement. They've gotten Frozen from Mouse, one of the strongest riflers on sort of the lower top 10 teams. Obviously, Mouse themselves were just on the brink of being like a true elite team. They won the Pro League. They were in the mix. They had the stand-in situation going. CS2 hasn't quite hit them the way the end of CSGO did. A lot of people were thinking they're either like going to be like as not as good ends maybe, or they've got to wait for some players to develop. Frozen said, you know what, I've had enough time. The spot's there in FaZe. I've played with Carrigan before. I've played with Rops before. Now's my time to not just be a good player on like a all-right team. It's time to be a good player on the team that can win, hopefully, everything, right? So I actually think, though, these odds are cheeky as. I'm actually going to take them, 3.57. I'm going to say that I actually take this as one of my teams to win. I think it's a very good one because not only are they the true second favourite, I think that's totally fine in light of the roster moves. I actually think Twists, in theory, is one of the more replaceable players, even though, yes, that trio of stars is very, very good. And I also think if you look at the fact that Frozen worked with Carrigan, trusts Carrigan, has a history with Carrigan, and Carrigan was the guy who took him as a 16-year-old and had him in finals, winning tournaments, I think this is going to actually have a honeymoon period. I think they're going to hit the ground running. They might have a few kinks, but I think Carrigan will very quickly figure out how to make Frozen comfortable, and it'll give the team a different dimension. Like, Frozen isn't going to be... Twists, or at his best, was more the guy, like, yes, not running directly into the site, but you think of him like taking aim duels, getting into the clock. Like, I think you might see a little bit of Frozen being a little bit more passive, but I also think that's what he's been doing in Mouse. I think in this team, he'll just find his spot. You've got enough players in this team. You can play dynamically. You've got the great leading and mid-rounding from Carrigan. I think these are great odds to take. 3.571 for the second most likely team to win. I really like that. It doesn't even have to happen 1 in 3 times. So yeah, I think there's a very real world where I trust Carrigan as an IGL. I think the rest of the team has the established history. They're bringing someone in who actually, by all metrics, should seemingly be pretty good, even if he might not be as good as he was in Mouse. He doesn't need to be for them to win tournaments. Then you come down, I totally agree with G2 being third, actually, even though G2 was obviously brought in Nexa and kicked out JKS for whatever reason. Not a fan of that. I don't think I would put Nexa in this team. I think he's all right. He's not the IGL, he's just a fragger. Now, I do think a lot of pressure on Huxley. I think that Monacy and Nico are still amazing. I think Hunter's a pretty good player still. You've still got enough, in theory, to win this event. But for me, it would be a bit of a fluke, or it'd be a bit out of left field to win the event. I do think they're the third most likely to. You have got Nico and Monacy. They can be MVP even if you come second. I mean, Nico's still a solid player, even if maybe he's not quite supernovaed like he did earlier in the year. I think you actually look at this team. The problem I have is the odds are just too close to the FaZe Clan odds. So until I see it, I just don't really buy it. Like, I'd prefer these odds to be like 5, 4.5, then I'd feel like it was rightly priced. So I would maybe skip that. I think that's a little bit of a trap. The odds are too low. Then you come down, though, to where the odds go mental. And these teams, by the way, it's not impossible. Cloud9, their problem is they don't have a proper AWPer. And now, that's not as big an issue, though, because it's CS2. And in CS2, so far, riflers rule the day. AWPers do stuff, but they maybe need to be played around. It's not as dominant a weapon. Obviously, from CSGO, they'd already reduced the number of bullets in the magazine, the clip, as I like to say, in annoy gun fanatics. And so I think, actually, in this team, you can get it done with the rifle players. I do think that you have some stud, right? Electronic and Axar can be the best rifle players in the world on their day. Perfecto's a fabulous clutch merchant. You obviously have Boomich doing his crazy moves. He does seem to, again, have brought that up-tempo approach that he brings, where he himself is the definition of a dynamic player in terms of what he adds to your team complexion, even if he's a very extreme player and how kind of wild he plays. So I think that actually makes them less of, think of the old team when they're fighting. They're very slow and boring, and it was a bit predictable, and they had to just win the aim duels. That's not what this Cloud9 is going to be. So the problem I have is they don't have the AWP. Even so, at 6.25, now I think you're priced in. Like, if you like these players and you just believe they can win, I think 6.25 is pretty nice. Like, that's not giving them great chances, but I could conceive of a world where they have a one-off run. I could conceive of the riflers getting it done. Remember, it's MR12, and these are going to be like best of 3 games. So I think it's actually not implausible. I think it's a very good set of odds. And then this is where it goes crazy, because I think there's a couple down here. I normally say ignore all the bottoms. No, I have 2 teams right here that have bonkers odds. There's a real world where you could even argue, if you saw how they would win, the pieces make more sense than the Cloud9 or G2 rosters. So if you have Na'Vi, the rest of Na'Vi is a solid enough squad with aleksib and Immer and those guys. And then w0nderful's come in. Obviously, we're waiting. He's not going to be simple, but he's a very good player. He's a player who can be like a top 10 AWPer. I think he can be a top 5 AWPer if he plays in this team enough. I can see them getting it together. It takes a little bit of time to work in Blade's system and understand how he's doing things. This could be it, though. If he's clicking and the rest of the squad's there, I mean, I actually think beyond odd players who've had some issues, it's still a promising squad. It's still a team that can do something and be competitive. So to have 14.285 odds, that's pretty crazy to me. I actually think I'm going to take a cheeky flyer on that. I think I'm going to do just a little 25 on that, because I just think they're too bonkers. Like, I actually like that. Then I would personally skip Mouse because they have just lost Frozen, and for me, he was far and away the best player. They've got some very other ones. I could see Exertion have a game that pops off and he carries them through a match. Obviously, Shu here seems like he's quite a cerebral in-game leader. Maybe he can call great. You can imagine Torji hitting a bunch of AWP shots. He's been a lot better, actually, I thought, at the end of CSGO and in CS2. It's part of the rise of Mouse. But without Frozen, I don't buy it. So even at 14 odds, I'd rather take Na'Vi for those odds. So I don't buy it. I'm not doing it. And then there's one more team, and it is ENCE. I know they didn't necessarily have the greatest start at the Elisa Masters Espoo in Finland, where they were losing out to teams they shouldn't be initially. Then they got it together. They got to the semis. Okay, they were competitive. The problem here is this. On paper, this team can win the event today. They can win this event right now because it's still the same squad events who could be in finals and win events anyway. Now they've got Glaive, the GOAT of being in-game leaders, a lot of people consider, a fabulous mind for the game. And he can mid-round, by the way, as well as do structured play. He always did that in Astralis as well. And if he gets his game together, we know he can even frag in theory. But there are a lot of question marks here. Like, this is going to be, you'd think, more of a loose team. He's working with different nationalities and calling in English now. He's going to have to figure out, how does Sun Pius work? I mean, Device brought a lot to the table himself and studied things. What is Sun Pius like in that sense? Nertz is a fabulous rifer, still not super experienced. It's still really sort of his rookie year at tier 1 in terms of actually playing the big lands. Madden is someone who's the workhorse, but then you got Dika, who obviously everyone tells me he's the X Factor. He can be really good. He can also go missing, and he has sometimes in the last few tournaments. So even so, because it's so crazy, 16.66, I actually think this is not a terrible one. If you're a fan of some Pius and Nertz and you think to yourself, Glaive's smart enough for a match, he could get it together. They get the basics going. He lets the boys play CS. Maybe he doesn't start out trying to put his system in. He starts out with a little bit of looseness. He starts out just trying to be competitive in the game. So I imagine what he probably did in Finland. You give him a chance to work with Cuban, the new coach, not Saw anymore, so we're going to have a different style of play. These players are good. It's a very, very well put together min-max squad. And apparently some players could have gone off to Falcons, people claim. So actually you're keeping one of the better AWPers in the whole world. So I think this is actually a team where 16.666 odds, yeah, they could bomb out. But I could also see a world where they like make a run to the final. And at the end of the day, when you've got people as experienced as some of these players are becoming, and especially Glaive is, there's a crazy outside shot you can win the event. Now, I cannot say that about the last team, Heroic. 33.33. If people don't know, Heroic used to be one of the absolute bona fide stone cold locks to make semis and finals of an event. But this one has Tessus and Shush, you know them, and that's it. They have Dupree, the guy from Vitality, who no one really knows is he going to be a top pro again. Zyphon, who used to be on, I think, Copenhagen Flames, and then once was on like Astralis Talent years ago. They have Salazar is the guy making the 5th spot. Exist remains as their coach. I think this is just a mess. Like, I could certainly see a world where they can upset someone in a game, or they can take a map off someone. There's some good players in there. I mean, Tessus, Shush, and Debris aren't bad. The problem is, where's your real star player? Where's your in-game leader? How's this going to work? And also, let's be real, it doesn't feel like it's a real squad. Will this squad be continuing on forwards? Aren't they just doing it because they qualified for the spot? Remember, they won the Blast earlier in the year, the spring one, obviously, when they had Cadian. This one, for me, they're not going to do anything at this event. I think it's just about like playing well, turn up to the event, get your paycheck. I don't think they even, unlike those Na'Vi and ENCE wild angles, I can't get any angle for this one. If they won, it would be one of the craziest upset wins maybe ever in the history of CSGO and obviously now CS2 as well. So there we go. There are the outright odds. I'm taking FaZe as the best team to win. I think the odds price them in. I think Cloud9's not a terrible one, but I also do like Na'Vi and I do like ENCE. I'm going to do Na'Vi because of my boy aleksib, and I'm just a fan of w0nderful. I certainly think you have to give space that ENCE could at least do it in a honeymoon period. I don't really buy that Mouse can do it. I think Heroic, it's just nonsense that they're going to do it. And I just don't think G2's priced in. If you're a big Nico fan, you might disagree. I think they haven't yet shown me. I thought JKS was a great anchor, clutch merchant. They don't have that now. So I have some concerns about how good they're going to be. Can they actually hit the peak form? Because it's only in peak form that this team ever won events. They needed 3 or 4 players to play really well and have really high ratings. I don't really buy that's going to happen at this event. Now then, did you know, if you've never used any of the features, depositing money, etc., onto Esportsbet, they have another first-time bonus, which is really interesting for an event like this, because it is the risk-free first-time bet. As the name says, you make a bet, and up to 100 USDT. If you lose, you can get that much back. What you do is contact the support on the website or message the mod mail on Discord, discord.gg/esportsbet. Tell them you did the risk-free first-time bet. the details. They will sort the rest out. And if you lose, they'll credit your account with the amount. Now, here's the reason why I think this is actually a great example of a tournament to use that risk-free first-time bet on. Because even if you bet on Vitality, what people would say is the main favourites, if you win, you get 2.63 times whatever you bet. And if you lose, you just get the stake back. Now, I would say, if you're going to do it for this one, I'd maybe do it for like Cloud9, Navi, or maybe Ents. And then what you're doing is you either get it back or you get some crazy flyer that you can get 14.25 or 16.66 or 6 times. I think that's a cool way to use it and potentially get even more out of your initial deposit onto Esportsbet.